Here we are. Boy, I tell you, I got this. This is good stuff. I am so much looking forward to tonight's talk, and welcome everyone to Live Talk with Becky Chernek. And I got an incredible lineup of speakers for us tonight. And first and foremost, we have Brian Allee, and he is head of sales for A2Z Sync. And thank you, Brian, for being on tonight. Definitely appreciate you and your, what you're going to share with everyone. That's for sure. And then Tully Williams, yo.
Good afternoon. How we doing? Is this the new Fixed Ops Wednesday with Becky?
I'll tell you right now, I might just take you up on that one, Tully. I would have so much fun with you. It would, let's make it happen, man, because you're phenomenal. So for those that may not know who Tully Williams is, now he is the corporate fixed ops director for the Niello company. Did I say that correctly?
Did.
Gosh, thank goodness. Okay. And then you got your sidekick here, who I'm kind of liking. I like him a lot. Dennis Gingrich. He is your sales and F&I corporate director and for the Niello company. And I want to thank you so much, Dennis, for being on here as well and sharing all your great knowledge with everyone tonight.
Well, I appreciate being here, and I'm really interested to see having Tully on the call. He just learned how to spell F&I yesterday, so
Whoa.
I'm looking to see what he brings to this great group. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, it definitely is a lot of fun with you guys, because here's the thing. First of all, I do have to mention or show some people who are saying hello. So let's just see who said hello real quick. And we have Steve Apicello, who says, no shortage of horsepower here. Great group, Rebecca. And I am just absolutely pleased with this group as well, because, boy, we have some interesting things to talk through. And did I just lose Tully? I think I lost Tully.
Got lost.
And I think Tully is coming back.
I think I can still hear him though.
Okay. He just wanted to know if I could maneuver now. I'm getting better at this. I don't know. But so we are talking about, we're talking about should F&I people, even or service for that much matter, train salespeople on F&I products. Not only that, not only on product knowledge, but actually selling products before the customer makes their way into this F&I office. And I got to tell you, for some of these dealer advocates, some of these dealers, they're just like, wait a second, I don't know if I want to do anything quite like that. You're like, I want salespeople. They have their lane and F&I has their lane. And we are going to protect this F&I profit that we're going to protect the golden goose no matter what we do, right? That's the whole idea behind it. So before we get started, here's what I want to do. I want to share a 7-minute clip video from Auto Dealer Live. And the reason why I want to do this, I realized that, and Brian, you make a valid point. It happened in 2019. It did. I was a guest on this show. And the backstory is I am telling you the truth. So I'm sitting in Ted Ng's car and I'm in front of the United Airlines. We had a meeting in New Jersey or wherever it was. And he's dropping me off, or he's trying to drop me off at the airport. And frankly, I thought I would have more time to be able to be on this call, and it wouldn't be so frantic. But anyway, so it happened. The baby popped out. Here it was in front of United Airlines. And we're talking about, there was other dealer advocates on this show talking about should F&I or should dealers be talking about or training salespeople on F&I products. 7 minutes. Hey, Larry, I'm glad you're here. So you got to You've got to watch a 7-minute video, and then we'll get into our talk. Fair enough? Here we go. I think I got this right. I think I can do this.
Okay, we're talking about whether or not we are educating, we're training salespeople on products, and whether or not salespeople can have that conversation with the customer about a product. Is that what? Is that it?
Yeah.
Anything you say?
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that right?
Yep. Yes. Sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to double check. Okay, thanks, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I think it's critical, and I do believe that we can do a better job in training our salespeople. You know, I hear that what I hear is, no, we can't train salespeople. And I'm thinking, well, why did you hire someone if you can't train them?
Exactly.
Of course, we can do a better job training our salespeople, and they should have a better understanding of what this product covers. They have to understand that, why do I present a service contract to a customer who is purchasing a Toyota? Don't you know Toyotas never break down? Having a better understanding of all the benefits behind the service contract is paramount. And then also, you know, maybe a tire and wheel policy, and the understanding of why in the world is that product being presented to my customer. So that way we all have true buy-in. So if the customer has some questions with regard to the product, why shouldn't they be able to address and properly address the customer's questions? Now, you know, here's the thing. It was interesting. Just the other day, well, a week or two ago, I actually interviewed Frank Renetti, who is, you probably all know, he sells 100 cars a month. Now, he's an icon. He's a game changer in the industry. We get that. Not everyone's doing 100 cars per month as a sales associate, that's for sure. One of the questions I asked him, I said, should the salesperson have the ability, or should we be training salespeople on the product? And should the salesperson have some knowledge as it pertains to the products and what they do for the customer? And of course, I mean, yes, I mean, and that's how the dealership, their dealership, you know, certainly operates. And I think education is just critical.
Are you advocating though? Like, I mean, I think Frank, because you know, Frank. Well, let me ask you this, Rebecca: are you advocating though training, or are you advocating like a salesperson? You know, maybe somebody that maybe does something from soup to nuts, handles the whole process, or what's your thoughts on that? Or you're kind of stopping short a little bit, it seems, maybe from endorsing that. What's your feelings on a salesperson getting totally involved? Because I know Frank obviously.
Well, Frank doesn't necessarily want to do the whole deal. No, he doesn't. He understands his part in the process, and he likes a team effort, synergized environment, and I support that as well. Now, Tony said, you know, there are some dealerships, and there's high-line dealerships who have and work with a different type clientele, where again, it just makes sense to take the entire transaction from start to finish as a sales associate. And do I believe that it can be done? Absolutely, I do. And I do believe that it can streamline the process. And I do believe that we can maximize performance. It's not for every dealership at all, just as Tony said. And it requires a tremendous amount of training and know-how. Inspect what you expect. And if you're not a dealership who is willing to go ahead and put the time and effort into it, I obviously would never recommend that. But I do see the benefit in, you know, a highline dealership, that sort of thing, where you have that type of clientele. They don't want to go from this, that, or the other. And you know what? You can streamline the process, and you can still maximize profit that way. So hopefully,
we'll go to,
you know, not just the knowledge, the knowledge aspect of it, but you also have to have a lot of discipline as well.
Yeah,
that goes along with that.
What do you think, Jim?
Sure, you do.
Hello?
Hey, Jim, what's your thoughts on that?
Becky Chernek and I had been friends for years. But, you know, everything she just says is absolutely absurd. But you know, salespeople are emotionally involved in the deal. You know, if I have a whole sales force full of Crinettis, man, I'll train those guys. But I'm going to ask Amelia, I'm going to ask Tony Diaz, is it possible on an off day, just perchance, a salesperson might sabotage the F&I effort? Absolutely.
Oh, they never do that, Jim. Never.
Salespeople are emotionally, and salespeople by nature will take the easiest perceived route to get a car delivered regardless of profitability. That's why we have managers who manage that part of the sale. And when I teach F&I managers how to interview the customer, the consumer credit counseling interview is the most important part of what I teach.
Yeah.
When I was doing the ultra high numbers in F&I that were the ultra high numbers of the day, it was all because it's about feelings. I interviewed the consumer. I educated them why the rates were that high. I mean, when you see some stupid ass thing online with 2.9 for everybody and they don't get it, they're sitting there with their 580 credit score, wonder why they're not getting that 2.9 that was online. And if they have an 800 credit score and they do get the 2.9, why wasn't it 4.9 and why didn't the dealer make a profit? There are vendors with other ulterior motives for pushing this process.
Wait
I'll
a
leave
minute,
it
one
there.
second here, and then I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm observed, and I'm getting that. We were talking about.
Did I get you riled up, Becky?
You know what, Jim? I'm fine with that. I really am. But where I wasn't talking about the credit interview. What I was referring to was the product knowledge. That I do believe that a sales associate can be trained on product knowledge, and I think it's very.
I don't want a salesperson in my business. I don't want a salesperson to even mention my business.
That's the difference between me and you, and you're right. I'm absurd. So that's all I wanted to mention was I was referring to. I wasn't referring to a credit interview, Jim.
Yeah.
So,
you're not totally you're not totally absurd, Becky. Just what you just said.
Okay. I just wanted to just clear that up.
Okay.
May I split the difference in here?
Well, I actually believe.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually agree with Rebecca, so I'm absurd
when we
too.
look at
Okay, so here we are. So I really felt like, you know what? I know it was 2019, but I had to share it. I couldn't help myself. It was like, this is too good to pass up. So where are we in this whole thing? So Dennis, how do you see it? How do you see it how do you see it when you got to the Niello company? I don't know what they were doing beforehand, what you had and what you changed. Can you explain what was going on between you and Tully?
So between me and Tully, I guess, really before I got here, and I had the advantage of kind of being on an outsider looking in as a vendor partner with the Niello company. And I would say it was much, I don't want to say it was as close as Mr. Jim Ziegler was defining it, but we definitely had some serious silo action between sales and F&I. And when I first came here, the number we were at was all in, including reserve, and there was a lot of opportunity, and we've had a tremendous amount of success. Like, back in the day, if we could get to like 1.6 products per deal, we were winning, and we're hovering around 3.3 right now, touch on 3.5, and we've got a lot of progress. So I do think there's room.
I want you to say that one more time.
So
3 point. You and I talked this week, and I'm like, what did you say? 3.3 product index. That is freaking amazing. That is strong. And you're telling us that you're getting 3.3 product index because you have the entire team bought in. Am I hearing that right?
That, that's my belief. I obviously have a close relationship with a lot of the people on the ground that actually make it happen. I just talk about it. They're being about it day in, day out. But, when you talk to the salespeople, when you talk to the sales managers, you talk to the finance managers, you put all their conversations together, and you can you truly feel like, man, we're rowing this ship together and we're getting where we need to be. And, we got all the right pieces of this sales process, working towards a common goal. And I'm not saying they're all on the exact same pay plan, but they got a lot of, the key points in the sales transaction. There's some serious alignment amongst them. And I definitely believe it lends a lot to our success. And I don't want to take anything away from, our individual finance managers that we've got, because we've got, I really feel like I walk amongst giants every day. We've got some, I would argue probably some of the best in the entire nation. I would love to compare them because we got a bunch of studs and just amazing people that do some great stuff. So, but I do think that alignment, it's key. I think, there's room for voices like Jim Ziegler. I've never met the man. That's the first I've ever heard him talk. And, I think he sticks to he probably preaches at a high level to some real key basics of our industry that every sales person needs to have. I had a sales manager growing up that, sounds a lot like Jim, and I respect what I learned from him. And then I think you got the other end of the spectrum, where you're going to this, one point of contact throughout the whole thing. And I just kind of equate it to like, if you're too far left in the political world or you're too far right, you're not going to win anything but like a county election. If you want to win something big, I think the answer is right down the middle. And I think that's where we're at the Niello company.
So let me see where Stephen Epicelis, what his comment is. Okay. F&I is a critical financial cornerstone for every dealer and customer truly benefit from the enhanced ownership experience associated to this F&I protection. If that's true, why does our great industry leave all the value to the micro moment of the F&I menu presentation alone? F&I tactically belongs before, during, and after this vehicle sale if our collective mission includes anything more than this one-time transaction. Dennis, Tully?
I'm going to let Tully go first because
let's
let him bring the thunder on this. Hit it.
Come on, let's do it, Tully.
So I'm telling you, here's the deal. Back in the day, this Ziegler guy, I bet you the door between sales and service had a two-way lock on it, right? That doesn't work anymore. Guys and gals, it's a team that makes it happen. It starts with what? We're in the repeat and referral business. If we're in the repeat and referral business, we want to sell great products to great customers and make sure their car is protected. And how does it start? It starts with salespeople knowledge. Oh my God, what a concept. It talks about having great F&I people selling great products. Then the most important piece is we send them off to fixed. That's because it's Fixed Ops Wednesday, by the way. And we get them in the service drive. And we have great products where the service advisors are educated on the products and say, wow, you bought that product, instead of saying, oh my God, you bought that product. That's a win. And what's the best used car when it comes in the circle of life? A new car with a service contract and F&I product. So the whole thing it is it is a team effort from the start to the finish and have that circle of life. It starts in sales, finishes in service. We kick them back up to sales to buy the next car.
I love it. I do. I get it. It's just, one process that continues, right? Until that customer gets back into the dealership and buys another car. That's what it's all about. So Brian, if you will, let's talk a little bit about your strategy, A2Z Sync's strategy as it pertains to, this single point of sale contact. And also, are you just limiting that to that particular single point contact, or are there other sales models that you are considering?
Sure.
And explain to everyone what that whole thing is, that single point sales approach.
Well, I'll tell you this, and thanks, Becky. It's fun being on the show. Tully's Ryan, and I'm having a great time already. When it comes to single point of contact, cradle to grave, one touch, one person, hybrid, call it whatever you want. It means different things to different people. And what it means to us at A2Z Sync, if we're talking one person, it could mean from lead inception, come into the BDC, engaging the customer online, and consummating the deal in store, all the way through finance, F&I, signing paperwork, down the road motors, right?
Yep.
It can be that extreme, or a hybrid approach. We can help dealers who have a really solid BDC set up and they want to do a baton pass to the salespeople, let the salesperson take it all the way through, or we can just enter our software, our training, and help bolster up the F&I efforts with the F&I manager and set them up for success, which is kind of what we're talking about today. My opinion, I'm probably a little far left of the aisle, I guess you'd say, when it comes to one person. I think the best way to sell a car is one person. right? We can throw as much technology and we can throw widgets at problems, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to people buy cars from people. And the sooner we can get them out of the store and building rapport, engaging, helping them shop for the car, help them buy the car, and the sooner we can get them out as happier customers, they tend to spend more money. So we help dealers on broad spectrum when it comes to one person.
So you have, you have dealers who go, well, I hear you, but I don't know whether or not that individual has the talent as my F&I person to be able to sell those products or to run the performance as my F&I manager does. So yeah. I'm not willing to break from that. What do you say to them?
I never hear that.
I'm sure you do.
What I say to them is, look, the very first thing you want to do is assess your culture, right? Culture eats process for breakfast. And if you've got the right people, some stores we work with, if they have 10 salespeople, sometimes all 10 are fully capable. Why? They create a culture of training within their store. They're constantly helping their salespeople level up. There's some really talented dealers and showrooms out there, but for the dealers who have maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 that can, they feel can truly do this, we find that on average, you can add a couple more to that equation with some training and help them along the way, right? You have to have a playbook. You don't just let salespeople run with full autonomy, with no manager engagement, wild west. I mean, they need help. They need help, coaching, and guidance, which means the desk managers and finance managers have to get their head out of their computer and help the salespeople out a little bit.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk to Dennis and Tully when it comes to some of this. And, so I know that you have embraced a lot of changes in your culture, in your store, allowing and working with your sales associates to be able to understand the products and being able to present products, if you will, to those customers before that customer ever breaks into that F&I office. What are your thoughts with regard to that single sales associate? How do you feel about that, Dennis and Tully?
So single A to Z, cradle to grave, whatever we talk about it. My personal opinion is I believe that there is, a certain amount of time that one individual is willing in a sales process that they want to spend with one person. And I think that clock varies from person to person. The better the person you have, we could probably sit on here for 4 hours. We're all engaged. We're enjoying what's going on. We feel like we're getting some productive things done. But I think the reality is when we look at the pool of potential employees that are out there and the talent of today's workforce, is everybody super engaging? Does every customer want to hang out with, Tully for 4 hours? Probably. But do they want to hang out with Dennis for 4 hours? Probably not. But, and I think that's what it comes down to, finding, enough of that high quality person that can keep a customer engaged throughout the entire process. That's a challenge. And I think somebody touched on it. It's a lot of training when you think of everything that goes into putting together a car deal. You've got you got to train around the soft skills. Are you likable? Are you a good listener? Can you ask good questions to really come up with the right presentation for the right customer to get them where they want to be and, make them feel good throughout the process? That's a heavy lift. And, I get, kind of what, Jim Ziegler was talking about in his little clip there. He just doesn't want anybody in his lane, and dude, I get it. It's way easier to train 3, 4, or 5 people than it is to train, 25 people under one rooftop. But I think the real question we got to ask ourselves, what are we doing for our people? Are we helping them find a sense of professional fulfillment? I mean, basically he's saying the dumber you are, the better off you'll be. You don't need to learn anything. And then he kind of goes into this, this thing salespeople are emotional. Well, I got news for everybody, and it's not news. Everybody's emotional, right? I mean, we're human beings, we're emotional creatures. And then, when he goes on and says, like, well, salespeople want to take the easy way out. It's like, well, no shit. We're not giving them the information, and they're sitting there in front of a customer going like, well, what about this? And the salesperson's like, well, I don't know. It's just in the payment. It's like, of course they want to take the easy way out. They're trying to avoid a difficult conversation. And it's just, finding one person is tough. And, so I'm not all the way in on the one A to Z. My salespeople get tired of dealing with a particular customer. I used to. Like, I want to get in, out. I want to get onto something else. I want to get them into F&I so I can get onto another deal too. So, I don't know. There's a lot to unpack in that clip, but one person, A to cradle to grave. Like, I just can't wrap, because there's a lot of nuance that goes on in the back end with F&I, maximizing approvals. Do I sell this widget? Maybe they pre-sold this up front. I might need to call an audible to, take advantage of a better bank call and, maximize the customer experience as well as the bottom line.
So Brian, what are your thoughts there? And I'm sure that you're tackling this, not just you're in different stores that are obviously having the same concerns.
Sure.
As Dennis.
We run about 5,000-6,000 transactions a month in our system. We've got 450, 500 salespeople running around doing this from start to finish. While I'm in agreement with Dennis when it comes to, how long does the customer really want to spend with a person, especially if they don't like them? What I would say to that is, I think we can all agree that the customers really don't want to spend 4 hours in a dealership. And there's really only one way you can streamline that to get them out of the dealership in a shorter period of time. It's not technology, it's process and people. So if we can eliminate the friction that it takes, for a customer to get from start to finish through a transaction, they tend to spend more money. I mean, you guys see it in your Google reviews every day. I'm not in the dealership anymore, and I haven't been in about 3 or 4 years. So I'm becoming a dinosaur pretty quick in this day and age. But I mean, you see it in your Google reviews that, the happiest customers are the ones who spend the most money at your dealership. And time again, we hear it. We'll pull somebody from a Best Buy, a waiter, waitress from a restaurant, put them in front of a customer, train them up, and get them through a transaction, and they'll yield higher F&I results than the average F&I manager does. Why? Because the customer's having a good time, they're engaged, and the customer experience is your new brand. And if we don't provide them a quicker way to transact and have a more enjoyable experience, I think we're just fighting an uphill battle.
So let me ask you this: just because you make it faster doesn't make it better, does it?
Well, I guess it depends, right? In fact, I had one customer and all the dealers we've talked to in the last few years say, well, I don't want my customers to be rushed if they're having a good time. Well, if they're having a good time, then go ahead, build all the rapport you want. But I think if you ask 10 customers, 9 out of 10 are going to say, I'd rather you get me out of here faster than to keep building the rapport. So there's a time to build the rapport, but then there's a time to pull the trigger and let's run faster. One thing, and I'll end with this. I think finance managers across the board, what they lack is the rapport building. They've got 5 minutes to build a relationship, to rely on a customer interview. How are you driving the car? Where are you parking it? How do are there potholes on your way to work? And all these things to try and set them up for success in finance. Whereas a salesperson, they've got all the rapport, and they can take all that information and they can use it to their advantage. So that, they're not stuck building 5 minutes of rapport to where they have to, come up with really slick ways to close deals and handle objections. Oftentimes the customer looks at the salesperson and they go, what do you think I should buy, Becky? Because you build that trust and that credibility. And I think that's the secret sauce from a one-person perspective.
I get it. I do. I get both sides. I understand, and I have worked and I have trained hybrid. And, so the sooner you can get engaged with a customer to find more of that information out earlier on, the transition is just that much better. It just is, because you have more information that much earlier on. You're this is way before that interview. And as you collect more information, the more information that you have, and the more that you're able to present and then address and overcome objections based off the information that they shared with us earlier. I certainly understand that. But I also understand that time element and the different phase, because I can tell you time after time after time, customer might tell me, how many times has it happened to you where a customer might have said, hey, no, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying that service contract. You know, you really did a really good job. And you know, it drives me absolutely crazy that Dennis can walk in there, say the same exact thing, and then the customer does what? Ends up buying. So a lot of times that second face, for some reason, makes a difference. And I think that's kind of where Dennis is going with. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, Dennis. So what are your thoughts there?
No, I think, there's a couple points there. We brought up the topic of friction, right? And there are friction points in the car sales transaction, right? And there is that friction point, that handover from sales to F&I. But I would challenge all of us to ask the question, is there a friction point because our pay plans aren't designed in a way to remove the friction, right? So when we talk about silos, right, generally speaking, a lot of dealerships are like, well, the sales guys get paid on the front end gross and they don't care about the back, and the finance guys get paid on the back and they don't care about the front, right? And it's like, Henry Ford was fighting that way back in the day. That's as old as, automobile sales. And it's like, well, wait a second. Why don't we just, align our team so they're kind of fighting for the same thing? And I would argue that is really the root cause of why customers are pissed off in the dealership, is because, the people they're dealing with don't have a common goal, and it transcends into the customer's experience. So, the friction points, those are our faults as leaders. It's the fault of the people, in my opinion, that are putting the pay plans together. So when I've got my F&I guys getting a little something on, a service, or my salespeople getting a little something on the sale of any F&I product, whether they actually sell it up front or the F&I gets it, they're going to put a nice transition in place. They're going to work closer with the F&I person because they both got something they're both striving to. And when the deal comes into the F&I manager and it's got 2 products, 3 products, or no products, the F&I manager is like, bro, thanks for working so hard to get me the 2 or 3 products, or man, thanks for trying. I know you tried. And then all of a sudden, the second face that Becky talks about, and we've all been talked about the turn, you need a second face when things aren't going good, comes out and like, dude, you got me those 2, I got another 4. Or I got nothing, but I was able to get you, another 2 or 3, and that helped your pay. And I just appreciate you planting those seeds and setting it up. So, we're not talking about really necessarily having the salespeople sell them, and sometimes they do, and we're grateful for that. We just want to catch those ones and then be able to add. And then what we don't catch up front, we let our world-class F&I managers sweep up the pieces, and they do a damn good job at it, and it's working for us really well. And plus, eventually, I'm going to have an F&I manager that's going to want to go work in another field or a different deal. I mean, turnover happens. At least my salespeople have a clue. I'm not starting from nothing. They've already got some good things, and they're talking about the stuff that needs to happen in the F&I office already, and they're prepared to progress. I think that's huge. I mean, who wants to be a salesperson and just, oh, this is, I've reached the pinnacle of my life. This is all I want to do. And there are guys that are career sales guys that do good, and that's great. But some of them want more. Why don't we just give them more and let them be part of the total package, so they feel like they got some impact and they can earn some bucks for their hard work?
Can I piggyback on that, Becky?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. Dennis, when you have 2 different departments working against each other, nobody wins, right? The customer definitely does not win. Over the last 6 months, we've been helping dealers create better communication between the front and the back end of the process. And you said it, the pay plans. If we can get everybody in alignment on just pay plans alone, let's encourage salespeople to plant seeds for F&I managers, because I hear it all the time. F&I managers will tell me, hey, Johnny Greenpea doesn't set me up for success. He gives away term, gives away rate. By the time the deal gets to me, he's left me with nothing, or she's left me with nothing. And so, what we want to encourage is let's pay the salespeople to set F&I managers up for success. Let's take the rapport that you've generated with a customer and arm the F&I manager with all the information they need to put them in a better position to capitalize on F&I product penetration. And you guys are obviously doing something really, really right when you're averaging 3.3 products per deal. So kudos to you on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Tully, please.
So I'm going to wrap this up this way, is that if we want to be in the repeat and referral business, so we're just talking about sales stuff, but let's talk about the sales customer that comes back 5 more times, right? If we sell them great products that helps drive that repeat and referral business, if we sell them products that they will utilize and be happy they bought in the service drive, what happens? They come back and buy another car. If we do not sell them a product, especially on some cars that are more challenging than others, right? They will never buy that brand again and not be repeat and referral business. So the point of this whole thing is education for the 3 sections. Salespeople build a relationship, build the long-term relationship for cousins, aunts, uncles, and family members. F&I products that know the products that are working with sales and service advisors to educate them on the products and how they work. And then you have service advisors that keep them happy in the store and benefit from the products that we are selling in sales. Did you lose your key, Mrs. Smith? Next time you buy the key and I will save you money. I really don't like door dings. Make sure you buy door ding, or can I buy that for you today? Because we want service advisors to have the option to buy it. So the whole thing is that if you keep people happy and sell great products, because here's the deal. If you're selling 3.3 and people don't like them, you don't sell 3.3 for a long time. You sell 3.3 and you blip right on back down. But if we sell products that customers utilize and appreciate, and they drive repeat and referral business back in, that's when the dealership wins and the customer wins ever. We get a great used car and we get the next customer buy his car. That is the holy grail here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Repeat and referral business starts with great people educated on F&I products to keep them in the store for life.
Tully, do you sell Vitamix blenders at Home and Garden shows in your spare time? I'm waiting for but wait, there's more to come from you.
No, I think I think it all makes sense, because the more that we educate our sales, our service, our F&I people all as one, the more it's going to impact the sale, the customer experience, as well as impact the F&I, the performance all around, front and back in retention.
Yeah.
It's what we try to keep away from others, and for many years we've been in the business. Every one of us have been in the business for a long time. It's always been, well, let's keep these guys in the dark. The less they know, the better. Why do we want to share this knowledge with these people? Because they'll give up the farm. And that's the opposite of what's really happening here. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you mentioned like, oh, they gave away my term, they gave away my rate. It's just, I don't even understand why we're really talking about that. I mean, the terms are the terms, the rates are the rates, but at the end of the day, the customer gets no value out of term. They really don't get any value out of rate, but they do get value out of F&I products, right? They when they go in and see Tully, there's some meaningful differences, that happen back in the service drive if we're getting them properly protected. And, that is what we need to be talking about. That's what we talk about with our salespeople. It's what we talk about with our F&I managers. And those two things are, what's your products per customer and what's your PVR without reserve, right? That is, that's the true measurement. That's what we need to be talking about. That's what we need to be compensating our people on, because it really drives the sale of those F&I products. And, we've all said, I see it in the comments, like, F&I is mission critical for the dealerships, not just now, but always. I would argue it was more important prior to the pandemic when we had 1 billion cars. We were selling Civics for fun and holdback, and it wasn't very fun, and it was all about F&I to turn a profit in the new car department if you owned a Honda store. And, F&I just, it creeps into service like Tully says. It truly is the difference between running a customer off and keeping a customer, getting the bottom line and turning a positive net. And, you also got the reinsurance aspect for the dealer. The more products you're selling, I mean, it's just win, win, win all the way around. And, if everybody is talking about it and, have some alignment in their compensation plans, I believe you get rid of the friction for the customer, right? You get a great customer experience. Sales and finance actually like each other. And then your service and your finances, they like each other. So we don't have the two-way lock like Tully's talking about. And then you can share an office like we do.
Which is really impressive. You guys are joined at the hip, and it's working, right? It's working. So, I was always, and I don't know if I'm all that different than, well, obviously I am different than some, but I was trained in the very beginning that I know the idea behind my products, and having a better understanding of them would help my customer to have a better understanding of the value of that product. And that was when I was in sales, not when I was obviously in F&I, but the two were, it just was hand in hand. And I've told Tully many a times that I wanted my customer to have a better customer experience. All in all, I did not, as a salesperson, want my customer back in the service department where they didn't have a loaner, or they didn't have a rental car, or they didn't have the right coverage to take care of them if in the event of a repair. And earlier on in my career, I even know that. So I don't understand how we wouldn't want a sales associate to understand the value behind these products, to make sure that the customer really sees the value as I build that relationship with that customer. If I don't understand the actual value behind it, why would I support it? So if a customer were to say to me, I have a 3-year 36, or I have a 4-year 60, or whatever manufacturer's coverage, what the heck do I, full coverage, what do I need a service contract for? And many of these salespeople, I would imagine, that don't know any better about their product, why bring up something they don't want to talk about?
No, 100%.
Like, I don't know anything about
in a position where they, they're going to get asked a question. And I mean, let's face it, nobody likes to say, well, I don't know. As a human being, we want to know stuff. We want to be able to help other people. It's like, no, honestly, I've been selling cars here 10 years and, I don't know, because my boss won't tell me anything. Like, dude, I don't know. That for me, that's not rad at all. They need to know, they need to be engaged. And, honestly, everybody has people in their life, whether it be professional or personally, that you pick up the phone and you call for information or advice on something. If a salesperson turns into that salesperson for a customer, we got a guy that's been here north of 10 years. Every dealership has them. When they're thinking about a car or talking about a car around the family, they're like, I'm calling my guy Kane, because he knows everything, how it works from the front end to the back end. And he becomes that guy. He's that much more valuable. And, Kane's excited because he's got a piece of the action.
Exactly. It's just like, it just stands to reason. Just like I knew that, at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure that that customer had a better understanding of the product before they made their way into the F&I office. And if in the event they had a question as it pertains to any of the products, I was very knowledgeable about it, that I could address and answer those customers' questions and make sure that I could steer them in the right direction. And it worked for me. I got compensated on it, but I also wanted to make sure that it was a value-added protection for the customer. And it was a two-way street. And that's exactly how you have to, look at it. And then, so I want to go over some of these questions that we have here, comments. And Susan has another one. Dennis Gingrich, besides pay plans, what other new initiatives did you implement to get that F&I increase? Software, tools, additional training?
So, I mean, in terms of software, I mean, we haven't really, pulled anything in new software, training. We go around to our stores and, in sales meetings, we'll talk about individual products, at a high level. And we talk about, hey, where can we kind of plant our seeds leading up to where we deliver the proposal to the customer, all the terms of buying that car. So, whether that be, when they're walking around the trade and they're, seeing like, oh man, this customer's got curved wheels, they got chipped windshields, they got door dings, just through casual conversation that happens during the car deal, how you can gather that information and begin to plant seeds prior to the proposal. Another thing we started doing here recently is we have a sales professional development program where we had each of our stores kind of go through an application process with the sales people to see if they could come in. And we had like legit F&I training. Like we had one of our general sales managers here come in, speak to the group. And we talked not only about F&I products, but we were talking about structure with the lenders, LTV, DTI, all the stuff that goes into making a credit decision, which of our regional lenders are, were a good fit, trying to give them to, some additional exposure to all the stuff that goes into F&I. Because let's face it, these salespeople, if they don't know anything, like they just walk in and they see Dennis in his office and he's just watching YouTube, and then someone brings him a deal and then he makes, $1 million a year for watching YouTube. I mean, that's the perception. So bringing them in and getting them tuned up on, some of the inner workings of F&I, giving them knowledge, and then, just really in-depth F&I pitch training. We had one of our, our top producer for the year come in and share his tips and tricks and his presentation. And, they're interested. If they want to come into, our CIT call, if they want to come into our, our general F&I meeting, like, come on in. Knowledge is power. And I think the better they're prepared, the better we'll be. And, I think that's really important. If you're doing some training for your salespeople, we all know, like, there's only so many GM chairs. There's only so many sales manager chairs. There's only so many F&I chairs. And there's a lot of salespeople, but you got to let them know, like, hey, you want to soak up all the knowledge, be the best at everything you're doing, because when the time comes, you need to be prepared to interview, go out and win that job. And, not everybody's going to work at the Niello company forever, right? But damn it, do the best job you can. So if a great opportunity comes up at another dealership or outside the industry, you got a lot of powerful shit you've accomplished, so you can go out and win that job and, be the best person you need to be to provide for you and your family. So, not everybody's going to be here forever. Forever's a long time. Like, make the most of your time here and grow, because who knows where it's going to take you. And we just want all of our people to land in a great place for them and their families and get fulfillment on all levels.
Great job, Dennis. Yay. That's exactly right. Tully.
So let me just piggyback. I think the power of what we do is exactly what Dennis says, but also transparency to our employees, no matter if it's a salesperson or a technician, right? The whole thing about transparency and celebrating the wins. A lot of times we're scared to celebrate wins, or we're scared to talk about things. But if we are transparent and display and show our employees how well they are doing and rank them and celebrate those wins on a monthly and yearly basis, it gets people excited to be what they are. Is it excited to be a sales manager or a salesperson or an F&I, a service advisor, a technician, or even a support staff? We want to get people excited. And that is the true thing. Is your culture in your store strong from the dealer down? I'm not talking about the manager down. From the dealer down, do we support our employees? Employee satisfaction is number one. Customer satisfaction follows employee satisfaction. Celebrating the wins, giving great education and training to all positions so they can have a pathway if they choose. Some people, as you said, will be loved to be a technician in their lifetime and be a salesperson in their lifetime. And God bless every one of those people. But we need to celebrate our employees and make sure they understand that they're trusted and they're valued, and let's celebrate the wins together.
Amen. So Brian, I know that A2Z, one of the things that I really liked and still like about A2Z Sync is that you're not just a tech company and trying to sell the next best thing to a dealer. In fact, well, to some degree, but no. But you provide the training. what is the training? What is that all about? What do you do when you're, when you're implementing this technology in the stores? How does all that work? What do you do?
Yeah, so everybody in our company, Becky, whether they're an account manager, trainer, sales, we've all been in the dealership. So one of the roles that I held with the Shop Automotive Group was director of corporate training. So I helped. I'm a trainer at heart. I have a background in training. I'm super passionate about it. So one of the first things I did when I came to the A2Z side a little over 3 years ago was, you know what, if we keep putting a widget in front of the salesperson or the F&I manager, regardless who's using the system, it's only as good as the person who's driving it. So we have to make sure that the blocking and tackling, right, the basics, the meet and greet, the wants needs analysis, the walk around, right, the test drive, the trial close, all the things that we know work in this business, regardless of how you're doing business, that never goes away, right? So that was the first thing that we did, is we created a really robust training platform because we don't want to just be another tech company that drop ships a widget and walks away. And so, our training is pretty intensive. We spend a week boots on ground to train the sales staff and the managers, an array of different areas, leadership training. When's the last time you had a one-on-one with your salespeople? In that one-on-one, what did you talk about? Did you bang them over the head on lag measures, or are you talking about the behaviors that drive the lead measures that we all want to look at? Down to, hey, salesperson, put your phone down and how do you greet a customer, right? So we want to make sure that we're preparing the sales staff, empowering the sales staff and the sales managers to truly make a difference. So when that customer walks in the store, it's showtime, right? Then the software comes in. But without all that, without the training, the software is just going to sit there and get underutilized.
Well, I can tell you how many times when we were implementing, and it just kind of reminds me back many years ago when we were implementing menu selling in these AutoNation stores for the first time, and everyone just felt like, oh, you can do that menu selling stuff, Becky, in the mega stores, but try that on here in the new car stores. And I'll tell you right now, you couldn't go in there with a firing squad like, okay, everybody out. That wasn't going to work. That wasn't the initiative, right? But it was, how do we get buy-in? How do you get buy-in? And you get buy-in by what? By doing and setting a plan and a process and support and show and tell, practice, drill, rehearse, until we finally showed, you know what, there's no other way to do this. And frankly, I don't care where you are. You can be in a mega store. You can be in a new car store. You can be wherever that you want to be, in the middle of a showroom, for freak's sake. And you can be successful. But you're right. It takes that buy-in. It takes that show and tell, practice, drill, rehearse. What's the process? How can I buy in and know that, hey, that this is going to work? Especially then, it was unheard of. What are you talking about, Becky? You want us to be upfront? We're going to show a base payment. We probably have some people like that today, but right, Dennis. And, so is that going to work? How is that going to work? We got to be upfront and people are going to buy our products. Are you kidding me?
No,
it was unheard of.
Bringing up the whole business about upfront and showing base payment. We're out here in California, and I'm sure people, got all the comments they have to say about California. But I will say this about the state of California. Yeah. One thing that the government did do right, and I hate to dabble into that, but we have something called the Car Buyer's Bill of Rights. And, when you buy a car, when you finance a vehicle here in the state of California, you have to go through this thing called a pre-contract disclosure statement. You're not going to get a deal funded without it, but it literally shows every product the customer purchased, what they paid for it. And then at the bottom, it shows the base payment without any of that stuff and the payment with all of it. So, my point to that is, to run the kind of, to run 3.3 products per customer and the great PVR that goes along with that, you really got to be, a great salesperson, and you got to do so in a transparent manner. And, when you read the news, there's all these articles, all these studies that say people want to buy F&I products. They just want to be exposed to them earlier in the process. Like, it's been in automotive news, it's been here, it's been there. Like, so it's like, okay, well, why don't I just get it out in front of them with the salespeople? I'm starting to get that extra transparency. And then my salespeople, they did all the seed planning and all that. And then they carry out the proposal, and it's got the 3 different F&I products that they've chosen, that the store has chosen, pardon me, to present. And they're dialed in. And then at the end of the day, the customer says, well, I really don't want that. Well, is that the only thing stopping you from buying the car? Well, yeah. Well, we're in a pretty damn good place. It sounds like we got a car deal. So like, let's wrap this paperwork up and get them back into F&I, and then they get to talk about it a little bit more, and I just think getting everybody involved, you can do it transparent. You can run the big numbers. You can get all your people a sense of fulfillment. You can get them paid. They're all in on the action, and they're prepared for the next stage in their career if you do it right.
Amen. So Brian, let me ask you a question. How is it that you guys A2Z Sync help with the compliance part of it all?
Yeah, so 2 ways. Our system has some built-in, our owner, Aaron Wallace, calls it bumper bowling for salespeople. And so our system has some compliance pieces built into it. It was designed by an F&I director for the Shop Automotive Group and also the compliance officer. So the software does some of it, right? You still can't solve for the autonomy when they're sitting with another human being. But we'll typically partner with the F&I agency or the product provider with the dealer. And look, we have one common goal for the dealer, and that's to help them level up. So we typically we'll join up and partner up with JM&A, Safeguard, Protective, Easy Care, you name it. And we help develop a program for their salespeople to make sure that we're staying compliant.
Well, I think that is really important, especially how and where all this is